Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking a minute to take a look at our computer science competition season in review, parent education session. Um, I was just figuring out my headphone situation here, but let's get into talking about competitions. And we're going to see a number of different things here. We're going to review the different competitions that Katie Byte students have been participating in, both upcoming and in the past year. We'll remind you about how they work, structure, schedule, organization, and what kinds of things are actually tested. Share some advice that a lot of people are thinking about as we sort of complete the year for a lot of these competitions. And maybe some students want to know how to do better or how to keep improving and keep doing well at these competitions, and remind you about Katie Byte classes. And we are going to end by reminding you about a couple upcoming competitions as well. We have a few different categories of competitions. First one would be what we might call long-term competitions because they're done multiple times per year. So American Computer Science League, short for ACSL or shortened as ACSL, is something you can participate really all the way through your computer science education, starting in grade 3 or approximately. This is an interesting one because it actually has a mix of short answer technical semi-technical questions, some a little bit theoretical questions about computer science, as well as actual programming tasks. A lot of people think computer science is just programming, but while some competitions are like that, ACSL is a mix, and I really like the fact that it covers a few different kinds of things. It is more accessible than something like the USA Computing Olympiad, and if you are a beginner to programming, it's something you can start learning about early on. And we'll talk a little bit later how ACSL is broken down, but there's even the lowest division where you don't even need to do any programming, similar to some of the other competitions for younger students. So this one is organized through teams at a school. Really, it just means you need to register through the school because your work is still your own work. There is some potential for sort of team-based actual work for the final competition in some years, but for the most part, it is individual work, much like all the others. USA Computing Olympiad is a more challenging, much more challenging one, actually. It is intended mostly for high school students, although if you are in middle school and really advanced with computer science, you are welcome to participate in that as well. It is purely programming, and it is focused on partly the programming itself, but also your ability to work out logical problems. And those problems can be quite complex. So it is very difficult, especially in the last few years, it has gotten more difficult, unfortunately. And it is a bit less predictable, like exactly how hard it will be. So one of our biggest piece of advice for students in USACO is make sure to do all the competitions. You never know when you'll get one that you click with. You shouldn't be discouraged by just, one that's really difficult. You should keep practicing. It is purely individual participation. In fact, it's the only one of these that you don't have to register through a school to be able to do it at all. It's purely done through the USACO website. So those are two that you really want to be thinking about throughout the course of the year, the school year in the United States specifically. These two are once per year, and they're both of a similar style. These are both non-programming questions, and they are based on short answer, sort of puzzle solving kinds of ideas. There's definitely some logic being tested there, but it's not about working out the logic of a computer program. They're, like I said, both offered once per year. The first one on the left side we have been doing before, which is called the Beaver Computing Challenge, which is a Canadian competition. The other one is the Computing and Algorithmic Thinking Competition, or the CAT, which is an Australian competition. And I'm mentioning where those hail from because there's actually a programming competition from each of those countries and each of these organizations as well. That's probably a little bit more advanced, but these are definitely encouraged for everyone to do, especially if you're a younger student. So the BCC is for grades up to 10. All of these are organized through teams, through registering with a school like Katie Byte. We did offer BCC last year. We had a number of people participating in that, and yeah, I think it was pretty successful. We're happy to be offering CAT for the first time this year. CEMC is the Center for Education in Mathematics and Computing, which is, they all, like I said, also run the premier programming competition in Canada, and it's all done online. The CAT is very very similar, but run by the Australian Maths Trust, which again offers their premier programming competition as well. So the BCC, I'm realizing we don't have the date on here, is offered earlier in the year, whereas the CAT is offered in May. So that's actually upcoming from the date of this session. So definitely look out for that, and you can still register for that if you haven't heard about it before and are interested. Now, the CAT is more advanced than the BCC, so you can actually keep participating in that through sort of the highest level high school divisions. So even though it is sort of non-programming problems, they are pretty technical. The logic can get pretty complicated. We will see an example problem later on as well. So overall, very similar to each other, and make sure to think about that each year, because really it's open to anybody. So then we also have some more once per year competitions, the CCC, and which is the Canadian Computing Challenge, and the Australian Informatics Olympiad, or AIO. This is these are very similar competitions, so that's why we haven't really subdivided these categories. They're actually, both of these, as well as the USICO competition, are all training for the IOI, which is the International Olympiad in Informatics, and it is purely programming competitions. This International Olympiad has a specific format, and all three of these sort of national competitions follow that format. So therefore, if you're training for any one of them, you're really training for all of them at the same time. However, both of these competitions are a bit easier to get started with. Their sort of lower divisions or types of problems are a lot easier than the first problems you'd encounter if you're doing the USICO competition. So we highly recommend that anybody who's interested in USICO or any of these programming competitions start with these. You're welcome to try with USICO as well, but these ones are a chance to just get into it and learn how things work without having to be stressed out by extremely difficult problems that might take sort of over a year of preparation before you're feeling prepared for them. These competitions, if you have had a year or two of programming, especially at a high school level or late middle school level, you can probably jump in and start solving problems pretty quickly. Like I said, these are run by the same organizations we saw on the previous slide, and these are run in February for the CCC, which means we have recently done that one, and August is the AIO, which is upcoming this summer. And we have run both of these last year, and we're happy to be continuing to run them this year. The CCC is the only one of these that we've mentioned that you have to attend in person. So we have done this twice. Been pretty happy with the turnout. Good to see a group of students all getting into these problems for a few hours. But unfortunately, that does mean you need to be close to our office or possibly some other school that could host you to do it. You do need a sort of official teacher supervision to do it. The AIO, you can't participate online. So these are organized through the school, but again, it is individual work. Almost all of these are kind of the same deal with that, other than USICO. So just one final note, I did get a reminder about the BCC. It is offered in November. So that one is done for last year, but coming up at the next fall, we will be offering it again. In terms of Katie Byte classes to think about, if you're a younger student, we would definitely recommend you jump into ACSL. This is available for students of almost any grade that's learning any kind of computer science at all. Even if you don't have much programming background, you can get started with that. Certainly, if you are thinking about maybe if you're in middle school and you're just getting started with programming and you're not eligible for the lowest level, maybe after 1 semester or 2 semesters of class, you could be doing ACSL. So it's pretty low barrier for entry. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. You get to learn about things outside of just programming as well. Then the BCC style things, including the CAT, but especially BCC if you're at a younger age level. These are some things we actually expose students through in our lower level core classes through challenge quizzes. So if your students have taken those classes, they would have already seen this kind of logic problem with multiple choice and some interesting diagrams and just sort of things to figure out, almost like little puzzles to figure out. And then there's also resources on web pages. But yeah, basically take our core classes and you will be getting prepared really for both of these competitions. Now, we are also been recently offering competition support classes. We know that people have a lot of questions and often need a lot of help with things. So these are kind of organized classes of just a few sessions where we'll give you all the information you need, help coordinate with you to make sure and double check that you've been able to register correctly and that your students teams have been sort of aware of where to get practice material and things like that. So it's something you would want to think about, especially if you haven't done any competitions like this before. Think about that before about a month or two before the competition you're interested in, and you can absolutely get registered for that and get some help as we approach those competition dates. CAT and ACSL are also available for older students. You can keep doing the BCC up till 10th grade, but really CAT is that style of non-programming competition that is intended to go all the way to the later high school classes, as well as ACSL. So those are something you can definitely continue to do the ACSL club. And then for something like the CAT, if you've been doing it since you were younger, you can kind of keep self-studying and practicing, and you don't necessarily need a class for that. You need to keep thinking logically, though, and that's what any kind of computer science class can help you with. And then we also have those IOI style contests. And as I mentioned, you probably want to start with the non-USICO ones of those, as well as moving into USICO pretty soon. And we do have classes specifically for that style of contest, including our recently launched competition prep class, as well as you get more advanced, classes for each USICO division. So competition prep kind of covers all the things you need to know to get started and does some of the easier problems practice. And as you start getting closer to being ready for the higher levels of competition, we organize things by their USICO divisions, which again are also equivalent to problems that you would see in the other two contests. So in the USICO divisions, they're kind of labeled bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And bronze and silver is where most people are focused on getting started. We do have gold class as well, although frankly, it's quite difficult to get there. Bronze and silver classes, we now have the same A-B structure that we do for our core levels because it has gotten more difficult. You really do need to be putting in that time to practice for those divisions. It's not something you can study for one semester and then be absolutely ready to go. So make sure to be aware that that's part of the sort of progression system and how to best prepare for those. And then outside of that, you can certainly do your own practice, and you kind of need to do that. It's not for the higher levels, especially, it's going to be difficult to succeed if you're just only doing what's assigned in class and then just kind of tuning out of everything else. You need to be continuing the practice even after you're done with class and to just be building those skills. But again, when you take those classes, you're prepping for all three contests at once. So we definitely recommend that if you're interested in competitions at all. So let's get into a little bit more details about each of the competitions. We'll start with the ACSL, which is kind of a unique one in terms of the format. So first of all, there are 4 contests per year, and you need to do all of them. The sort of grading for this is cumulative. So if you skip one, you're going to have a much worse sort of rating or point total at the end of the year, and it's much less likely you'll be invited to take part in the finals, which is where you can sort of get actual final recognition for doing really well during the year. So make sure to be, paying attention to that. Now, luckily, they make it pretty easy to do all of them. There's a pretty wide window of time that you can be doing these contests, but you do need to make sure to do it and not miss the deadlines. You do technically join a team. So Katie Byte has a couple different teams at each division that people can register for in a way that's really more for the school to sort of be ranked by, if there's a 5-person team among the school, then the school gets a really good total. But it is nice to be participating in sort of a group effort to show off your skills. And you do have to register that way anyway. And then the All-Star competition, which is sometimes offered at the end of the year, is a team-based competition. So it's actually a little interesting that they switched the format up a little bit for that one. The finals, which is actually different from the All-Star competition, that's an invitational end of year competition that you just do on your own individually from home, just like the others. So mainly most people focus on just doing well during the year and hoping to do well enough and be invited to do the finals and do well on that too. So register through the school, participate individually from home. Like I said, it's a mix of the shorter problems and longer problems. The format has been pretty consistent. It hasn't had big jumps or drops in difficulty very much over the years. So it's a nice one where you study any material that you have, any of the older problems, and you'll get a pretty good sense of what it'll be like. The short answer problems are quite interesting. It is actual specific computer science topics, but more on the theoretical side of computer science. So you definitely need to study for it. It's not something where just taking a general programming class will actually prepare you for that. You will see if you take a lot of computer science classes, some overlap with other things that we teach in our classes or that you might see in college level classes, but it's definitely not something you see at a lot of education below college level. So the best way to learn about those things is to join the ACSL prep class at Katie Byte or at your home school. So the way the division system works here is elementary division is only short answer problems. You don't have to do programming. But again, you still need to learn about some topics, but they are on the simpler side. Junior division is where you start doing programming topics. You need to have pretty solid fundamentals, but it's perfectly possible to do even with just a year or so of programming practice and learning. So we definitely recommend anyone just give it a try if they've learned a little bit of programming. There are new short answer topics introduced as well at each higher division. Elementary division, I believe, goes up to 6th grade. Junior division, you are eligible for that division up to 9th grade. After that, you got to be an intermediate or senior division. And of course, if you are doing really well and you're in middle school and maybe only 7th grade, for example, you could still be doing the intermediate contest if you're ready for it. So you can kind of choose a little bit, up to the cutoff where past a certain grade, you can't stay in the lower divisions. So intermediate division does have new short answer topics, and programming starts to be on the easier side compared to the short answer topics in this group, but it is a bit subjective. And then senior division really has the same topics overall as intermediate, just higher complexity problems. So at this level, since neither one of them has a grade cutoff, you can just kind of feel it out for yourself when you feel ready to kind of make that transition. A lot of students, well, it really depends. So I guess I won't make any broad statements about that. But obviously, yeah, if you've been doing this for several years, you may well be in senior division by the time you're in the middle of high school. So that's how advancement through it works. And you definitely need to make sure you're keeping up with the progression throughout the year. Those topics I mentioned for the short answer problems, they are divided up into across the different contests over the year. So therefore, you need to make sure to prepare for each one. And go to the training sessions or look at the study material for that. Make sure to think carefully about your programming, which is really similar skills to the other programming competitions, and know your fundamentals. So make sure to be doing well in your regular core classes as well. That will certainly help out. And again, it's really just about planning and making sure you're participating throughout the year and not losing an opportunity to do well at all. So the BCC and CIT, these are these two puzzle-based non-programming competitions. Looking at a little bit more detail about that, I forgot to update the schedule here, so my apologies. The November date is for the BCC, and then the CIT is in May. So we'll make sure to update that after the presentation here. Organization is still through a school. Technically, there's not really a team the same way there is in ACSL, but you still have to be sort of administered by a school like Katie Byte. It's all multiple choice problems for these. There's often diagrams. There's a lot of logical reasoning required, but it's not a particular technical skill like the ACSL short answer problems or the programming tasks that you see in other contests. It's general logical thinking and puzzle solving. With that said, the more practice you do, the more you'll sort of be prepared for the sort of thinking patterns that tend to come up. So it is good to do practice for these as well, although there's no specific class you have to take to be prepared for them. Here's an example BCC problem. It's asking about different pathways for this beaver character to get to this house. And it's just, this is one of the younger students' problems, I believe. And it's just asking which of these sequences of trees is it possible to pass by that forms a valid path. So this is actually based on a concept called graph theory that we would look at in Core 6B class, our very last core class at Katie Byte. But you don't need to do the formal graph theory course to be able to do this. You just need to think a little bit about different possibilities within the sort of network of roads and paths to take. So definitely manageable and a great introduction for students to this more advanced topics without necessarily even needing to know what topic they're preparing for. Just generally getting that logical thinking going is what these are all about. So here's a little bit other advice for that. Here are the grade levels, 5 through 10, basically, and you can pick the age group you want to do. What we say for really all of these competitions where there's any kind of choice about what division or group to do, start with the division that you're in naturally. Like if you're in fifth grade, do the 5 to 6 problems. If you find it easy the first time you do it, then the next year you can bump up to the next level, even if you're not in those grades yet. So you can still progress through these very quickly and be getting to more challenging work. But this is nice because it really gives you a sort of reward or recognition that you are doing well at the beginning, rather than sort of gambling on jumping to a higher grade level before you're ready. There's just no real reason not to sort of get that recognition for yourself and then just progress from there. So yeah, start where you are and then advance from there is usually our advice. Now, of course, if you're lower than grade level 5, you still can participate in that contest. And yeah, it's again how well you do that determines where you go from there. So there are practice problems available. And then again, also, we do have very similar kinds of problems to the BCC in our challenge quizzes in those core levels 1 through 3. So these are pretty fun, I think. So I would definitely encourage everyone, just have fun. Don't worry about like solving every problem every time you do it, especially if you're finding it difficult. Just enjoy the variety of problems and just these little puzzles that you can solve. Some of them you may like more than others. That's totally fine. Here's a CAT problem. It's probably actually, I believe this one comes from also grade level 5 and 6 for the CAT competition. So it's probably not all that much more complicated than the previous one we saw. But again, these problems do get up to higher grade levels by the end. So there will be ones much more difficult than this intended for 11th and 12th graders. So we have these rules that are needed to be applied. And this is definitely another sort of computer science and programming task that we sometimes have, is to either verify rules or apply rules to a certain set of data and make sure it, all works out correctly while following all the rules. So the rules are listed here, and you just have to see what the final order is. There's some interesting problem-solving strategies to talk about here, which again we cover in our competition support classes as we're preparing for these. For instance, you could try to figure out, just looking at the rules, what the final sequence needs to be. Sort of start with one rule, then apply another, and then sort of eliminate more and more possible sequences, or maybe build up a sequence of these symbols. It may be easier, though, to simply check the different options. So in other words, instead of a figure out the whole thing kind of task, it becomes a verify these answers that are already provided task. And that often is a good strategy in certain programming tasks as well. So basically, you can eliminate these choices by looking at really just a couple rules, perhaps, rather than having to look at every rule in every combination to figure out everything. So it turns out C in this example would be the correct one. Okay, so some other advice here. We do have the same grade levels plus the 11 to 12 grade level, and same advice applies here. We definitely recommend a competition support class, really for both of these competitions, but especially this one, especially if you're starting on it later or haven't done it before, because we are offering it for the first time, just to know like how the website will work and what kind of problems you'll see. And again, some strategies like we saw in the last problem. Again, very fun. I think this is enjoyable. It's maybe not as stressful as programming. So have fun with it. The IOI contests are probably the most challenging and difficult ones, although again, the CCC and AIO are not as hard to get started with in the earlier problems. So it's still something you could absolutely do starting pretty early on. USICO is where we'll start. We have 4 contests per year. Unlike the ACSL, you don't actually have to do every single one, but of course, your best chance of success will come if you do every single one. So we highly recommend anyone trying to do well at USICO, do not skip a contest. You're just hurting your chances of getting something that you'll be able to do well on, and also hurting your overall kind of rhythm and practice throughout the school year by skipping any of these. It's not the kind of thing where if you just sort of study for a couple weeks and then do one of the contests out of 4 in the year that you're likely to get promoted. You got to really be giving it a focused effort. All of the registration and work is individual here. And it is technically all based on the IOI, just like the other 2 of this nature. But it's not something you really need to worry specifically about the IOI. It's more just the overall style that if you practice USICO, you'll get to know. It happens to be similar to this other and happens to be similar to these other similar competitions. Sorry, I think I'm repeating myself there. But there's just a lot of similarity, but it's not required to know about the other competitions to do USICO. So the format is that you are only doing programming problems, you have to do three in one weekend, but you don't have like the whole weekend. You have a time limit of 4 hours usually. Sometimes it's 5 hours, usually 4 hours to do three programming tasks. And it's usually quite difficult. It's not really expected that people will be able to complete all of those problems in those 4 hours. But yeah, the more you study, the better you'll do. And there is a little bit of luck involved, but be prepared for a difficult task. But try to enjoy that as well. I know it's not written on the slide here like it was for the others, because I think a lot of people do find it more intimidating. But if you think of it like these puzzles, like there are puzzles to solve, you can find some enjoyment just in the process. It's not just about advancement every time, because that's not that likely to happen the first couple times you try it. But you will if you keep at it. So the way USACO divisions work is you have to be promoted to each new division you get to. I mentioned the bronze through platinum system here. Everyone starts in bronze. Bronze, again, is used to be a bit easier. It's very notable or noticeable, I guess, that bronze has been getting more difficult because, to be honest, we used to recommend that anyone with any programming experience could just give bronze a try. That's just not really true anymore. It is very challenging stuff. However, there's still no particular one skill to know. It's more just general programming skills applied to problems. But it's because it's different than other demonstration problems you would see in class where a teacher is guiding you, and it's different from like making a computer game. It's still something that students need a lot of guidance on. So we will look at example problems. We will show certain tricks or little patterns that occur in code that would apply to bronze. But overall, it's just about getting used to the format and making sure your general programming skills are sort of ready for this very technical application of programming. Silver is where you start to need to know very specific algorithms. And unfortunately, it's also not as simple as just, I learned this algorithm. Like, let's say a depth first search algorithm is the name of one that we might learn. It's not as simple as, I learned that. Now I will easily be able to apply it and get the problem right. It is not like a test in school where you learn the topic and then you can do the topic a bunch of times and they're all very similar, probably. The problems are intentionally designed to be very different from each other, even sort of ones using the same idea. So it does take a lot of challenge here. I would say it's more difficult than a software company interview question would be a way to compare this, or at least as difficult as a lot of those. Gold division, kind of similar to silver, just more complexity, more specific algorithms. You tend to have to build more of your own code instead of and then use that in other parts of code instead of just jump in and start solving the problem directly. It's like build a system to then help you solve the problem later. But it's kind of similar ideas. Platinum division is just really, really difficult. It's actually extremely rare for most high school students to really be competing in platinum division. And we don't have a class for that. At that point, you'd be doing many, many hours per week and probably one-on-one tutoring or learning from other resources like that. So most students focus on at least trying to get to silver, which is already a great accomplishment, maybe getting to gold. And some students who are really into it certainly can even get promoted to platinum, but it's not something you need to feel like you need to get all the way to the end to be doing really well. So CCC and AAO, like I said, are very similar. CCC we did in February, AAO in August. These are done at a set time, so you do have to match that time. Unfortunately, that can be inconvenient, but those are the rules of the competition, unfortunately. So you have to do it together with the rest of your school. So that's the way it works. So you do have to register through the school, and but then you will be working on your own when you're doing the competition. CCC is in person. AIO, which is the upcoming one in August, will be online. At least we expect it to be. The format is usually 5 or 6 problems, and there are 2 different divisions that you can compete in, and you can just kind of choose your division when it comes to CCC. Again, we recommend most people start in the lower division, and if you are finding that easy and you've already done well in it, then you can take the senior division. For AIO, it is based on grade level, so even though there are 2 divisions, you don't really have to worry about which one. It's kind of automatic, and it more relates to just how you are ranked or scored depending on your grade level. So for all of these contests, including all 3 of those past ones, you just got to be practicing and looking at lots of problems. And that is obviously true for any academic subject, but especially here just with the very high difficulty. The other thing is, as you practice or maybe try doing the actual competitions, if you're not doing well, that is completely normal. Something like the USICO, you're expected to take maybe a year of practice after having a couple years of previous programming experience before you might start to feel like you're getting close to getting promoted to silver. So think of it as a puzzle activity to participate in, not something where it's a test. And if you didn't do well on the test, then you failed. It's just not designed like that. And then the AIO and CCC, they are a little bit different in terms of their division system because you actually have a spectrum of difficulty even within a division. So what most students will find is with a couple of years of previous experience, they'll find the first couple problems fairly easy, but then they'll find the later problems within the division probably about as hard as a USICO bronze or silver problem. So again, that's hopefully encouraging for everybody that they can definitely solve some of them, but don't be discouraged if it takes a little bit of practice and several tries before you can sort of solve all of them really well and move up to a higher division, CCC, for example. Definitely try out all of these. There are other resources online as well. The whole system here is called Online Judge Problems because you create your own solution, and then you submit it to an online website where it will judge your program. It will actually run your program on a separate website to see how well your program figures out the answers it's supposed to figure out. So there are websites to do that in addition to the 3 contests. And you can search for online judge or look at some of the resources on these different contest pages to find that out. But again, practicing any of the contests helps you practice for all of them. So we would definitely recommend everyone sort of practice a little bit of each one of them, and that'll give you the most chance to be able to show off your skills and do well on one or more of them. Like I said, do enjoy it, even though it's the most challenging one. I think a lot of students find it intimidating. I really hope that they don't get discouraged because it can be a lot of fun. If you like, again, that puzzle solving aspect, it is fun. So once you are more advanced, make sure that you are doing this because you are interested in it. And it's very hard to get a student who is not really interested in this area and not enjoying themselves at all to do well, because you tend to just be doing what's assigned in class, for example, and not think about things outside of class. So it's just not realistic to expect that solid progression of skills if you're not giving it a little bit of extra effort, and not, if you're doing the bare minimum, in other words, it's probably not going to be very slow time being advanced, and probably even more frustrating, and sort of creates a vicious circle of not being enthusiastic about it. So just be aware that's the expectation, and it's okay to take a break. It's okay to wait until you feel ready for it, and focus on other computer science things and come back to it later if you need to. Also, make sure to review stuff. Again, it's really about thinking of things outside of class and not just doing the minimum. So wanted to update everybody about a few things new-ish over the last year. We already mentioned a few of them in terms of the different competitions, but just some updates and dates for you. We mentioned bronze and silver 1 and 2 are really important to take both of them for most students to be more well prepared. In the end, it may not be entirely necessary for a student who is very self-motivated, which you do need to be at least a little bit, but we've definitely seen a lot of students struggle only doing 1 semester, and that's why we created sort of the new class levels to continue further through more practice, basically a full school year of practice for each level. You still need to be doing additional review and practice outside of just what we do in class and for homework, but it should be a good guide to getting students to the point where they can do that themselves until they're promoted. I would note that, well, a lot of the level 1 classes are a little bit more popular than the level 2 classes. I think some of that is maybe just not being aware that there is a level 2 class that's recommended. I think also students get a little bit discouraged. So if you are feeling like the actual in-person competition, or not in person, but the live competition is difficult for you and you've only taken level 1, That's all the more reason to take level 2. We wouldn't expect you to be passing or promoting on the competition or getting a certificate of distinction until you've taken both those levels. And even then, it's still expected to be extra practice. So please don't get discouraged after level 1. Understand that it is a progression, and level 2 classes will help you. The silver 2 classes especially, we haven't had a lot of students taking those, even though there's been a lot of students taking silver 1 class. So I just want to mention to all of our students out there, if you're sort of hesitating about that, it really should be pretty helpful. And I would love to see more students in those classes next year. Or next school year, I mean. So we have also been adding these others. I think we've kind of mentioned all the ones. The new one this year is CIT, but even a few others are pretty recent. And so if you haven't really thought about competitions in a couple of years, you might not be aware that there's so many different options throughout the year now. So please check in with us if you're kind of wondering about that, or just take a look at the notes on these slides. We are happy to say we have seen students do well. To be honest, we were looking at our results about who's reported getting promoted in USICO between divisions. And I was surprised. I was actually thinking that with how difficult it is these days, a lot of less people would be getting promoted. But we had several promotions in silver and gold, or I need to phrase this correctly. Several promotions from silver to gold and gold to platinum. One person from gold to platinum who's reported it to us, and over a dozen promotions from bronze to silver. So people are doing well. You just need to keep at it. And that's only the students who have actually reported that to us. I'm sure a number of you may not be aware that there is an achievements section on your students' profile page where we would love to hear about anything great that your students have been doing, or even just trying out different things is something we'd love to hear about as well. So go check that out if you haven't before. And if you have gotten a promotion in USICO or any other kind of competition or applications to various programs, let us know about it on the profile page, or just shoot us an email and we'll help you figure that out. But it really helps us know how well are we doing, what kind of things are students finding success with, what can we recommend to other students. The more we hear from you, the more we can help you. To let you know, pretty soon events on May 20th, we have the CAT competition. This is 60 minutes. There's like a 2.5-hour window that you can participate, and it's on a Monday evening Eastern time. If you are in an Asian time zone, which I know several of our parents are, there is another time for that as well. So check in with us, or possibly look at our newsletter and other announcements we may have sent you to find out about the alternate time. But this is probably when the East or where the US or North American time students will be taking it. The ACSL finals is just a few days after that. It is on Saturday. The ACSL website has a full schedule for this event, and you can check that out yourself. But it's basically a full day event where the short answer problems are done at one time, and then the programming task is done at another time. And then there are different like seminars and meetings and sort of live presentations that you can go to as well. So it's kind of fun, kind of exciting. And certainly you should at least do the competition part if you want to get, certificates of recognition and things like that. You do need to register ahead of time for really all of these other than USICO, so make sure you take care of that well before these dates. A little bit later this year, we have the AIO, which will again be in August. I'm not sure if we know the exact date for that, but we'll definitely keep you updated in our newsletter and other ways about the AIO. In addition to that, just in general, make sure you are looking ahead of time for the dates, especially the last three that I mentioned, if you want to do that competition support class, because we do give these different information and practice sessions for 3 or 4 weeks out from the competition. And if you wait till a week beforehand, it may be a little bit hard to get caught up with that. And please, again, let us know if you are not sure about that, or you can check out our links on our mailings about those things. So unfortunately, we didn't get new pictures this past year for the CCC, but we did like to see so many students participating. And I will say, having been proctoring the competition this year as well, is a pretty similar vibe. A lot of people very focused on the problems and getting into it. So this is our only in-person event, but I'm sure everyone at home doing the online competitions will be doing the same. So that was our competitions in review. Hopefully a good overview of everything this year or over the course of a year, and also what's coming up soon. Please let us know, shoot us an email, WeChat, phone call, any way you like to get in touch with us if you have any further questions. And I guess I can also mention that for China time, Tuesday, May 21st, would be the date of the competition. And I think I'll just let you check our mailing because I'd like to translate that to China time before I say it out loud, and I might not do that right. So anyway, check that out or let us know if you need help with that. So I think that's it. Hope that was helpful for everyone. We hope to hear from you and see you for all of these over the course of the year. Thanks, everybody.